Hi everyone, my name is Teresa, and I would just like to first introduce Upendra Mardikar, who is the Chief Security Officer at Snap Finance, a fintech company in the buy now, pay later space. He is a prolific inventor with 96 plus patents to his credit, and is a cybersecurity and digital identity business enabler executive with an art of possible mindset. Mr. Mardikar has been in the cybersecurity space for more than 2 decades and has led global teams to secure world-class organizations and held executive and senior leadership positions at American Express, Visa, and PayPal. He is a regular speaker at esteemed conferences for Stanford University, Global Big Data Conference, NFC Forums, European Identity Conference, No Identity Conference, Global Retail Conference, IoT Conference, and several others. He is an advisory board director for select security startups and helps venture capitalists evaluate companies. He writes blogs on security and recently published a book that he co-authored with a couple of senior executives in security. He holds an MBA, bachelor's in engineering with a major in computer science, and several security certifications. So without further ado, I would like to introduce you, Upendra Mardikar. Thank you.
Thank you so much, guys. Good afternoon. How are you doing today?
Good.
Okay, fantastic. I was, really amazed. Miss Jetty, thank you so much. She was here, and Sharon, they walked me through a couple of booths over here. Phenomenal. Guys, some of you, your work over here and what your friends are doing, I'm just amazed with the smartness that you guys are bringing to the table. And, while we are looking at being smart and trying to do good to the world and innovative things, this may be one of the most important presentations and conversations that you may have in your life. Right? And that is, how can we be cyber smart while inventing new things, while doing something cool to the world? Right? So let's talk and start what we will cover today. Cyber, whenever I say cyber actually means cyber security, right? I mean, in this world of all connected era, we have multiple devices, our homes essentially are all connected, and then our cities are connected, right? So what we will do is that we will just take a step back and see what our life is today, right? Like you and my life. And then what we should look at, what are the different risks, right, that this life is going to pose to us, what we can do. And these are like very small tips that very practical tips that you guys can all use. And then what you shouldn't do, right? I mean, so there are certain things, it's good not to go and, there are this tipping point for everybody. So let's make sure that we are not doing those. And then what are the initiatives that government and these companies, right? I mean, we are right in the heart of Silicon Valley. There are lots of great work all these Silicon Valley companies are doing, as well as the companies outside. So what are the different cyber initiatives that these guys are doing? What are the opportunities? You guys are like super smart over here. I'm very privileged, very honored, and it's super exciting to be talking in front of you guys. What are the opportunities in cyber? And then, open for questions, okay? All right, let's get started, guys. So, our life today. Of course, how many of you don't have phone, right? I mean, that will be a silly question to ask. So we all are buried in our phone. We have multiple apps, talk on social media. We reach out to friends, likes, and all those kinds of things that happen. This is our life today, right? I mean, and it's perfectly fine. We have to embrace technology. We have to use this technology in multiple ways. Not only our devices, our life, but in general, our houses are also connected, right? I mean, just look at your garage door, or look at all the smart bulbs that we have. Look at all the smart refrigerators. So we are just surrounded. Our house is completely surrounded by all these smart devices. And then thirdly, even our cities that we live in, right? I mean, not necessarily in the Bay Area, but if you go to New York, for example, or San Fran, these are smart cities. So what that means is that you can have a parking meter, the traffic lights, the electricity that we get. So there are so many things, and you guys are more aware of these kinds of things. But I just wanted to take a step back as to where we are today in terms of all these connected devices, right? So as there is a rise in accessibility, let's not forget the cyber side of equation, right? And that's where I think this entire conversation will be focused on. So it leads to cyber risk. What we will do is, the cyber risk actually falls into multiple categories, okay? We will just, focus on three. The first one is criminals, right? The second one is your peers, right? I mean, this is something overlooked, that all our peers, the student peers, they can also pose cyber risk. And then the third one is, there is a category of data brokers that we'll talk about, right? And there are some others, but it will become a book on its own. So let's talk about criminals. So what we do, guys, is that we have, inside our home, we have lots of webcam. And why do we do that? Even for remote work, especially when we had shelter in place, we had remote classes, we had to do it, right? The TVs nowadays, the TVs have webcams. For our security camera, we have multiple security cameras as well that we have connected. And those are inside our houses, those are outside. We think that these are for our security. But from the threat perspective, for example, over here, home hackers, they hack into your homes, they could hack into homes, and then they spy, so just be aware of this particular risk. And the criminals, these are actual cases where you can see that 350,000 cameras were hacked, right? So something to keep in mind, and these are some of the statistical facts that we should be aware of. The next thing is cyber grooming. And just look at the number over here. This cyber grooming, for those who don't know what cyber grooming is, there are there's online predators. And what this means is that they will impersonate, of your age, right? I mean, somewhere between 17 to whatever, 15, 16. And then these are actually cyber criminals, right? And online predators. They will go and they prey, and then, we have seen lots of nasty things happen to kids. So be aware of this kind of risk as well that is happening in the world today. And there are about 250, about 250,000 of URLs, that are there, and these are published URLs. So, something to be aware of. Impersonating online. So this is a different one, guys, that we may not be aware of, right? So as we post our pictures on various social media, right? I mean, so I post it on different social media sites, on internet, and I love the likes, right? I love somebody is swiping right or whatever, right? I mean, for my pictures. So when these kinds of things are happening, and if you're not careful, there are cyber criminals. What they do is they take your picture and they can completely impersonate you. So, and this is happening a lot nowadays. So this is something that you should be aware of. So this is what we talked about, risks from cyber criminal. Now when we look at risk from peers, right? I mean, this is something that we might not be too aware of, that hey, this might be happening to us. But there is something called cyberbullying that you guys may be aware of. It's a bullying, but that happens on cyber, right? That's all cyberbullying is all about. Your peers may think that this incident is funny, right? So, it's a busy slide. But the point is that this incident, they might not have an intent to bully or harm you, but the consequence, the impact could be very dire. So the intent versus impact, we have to be very careful as to what others perceive as to what we are writing. So cyberbullying is something that we all should be worried about, and it could be hurtful or say. And people have, committed suicide and they have killed themselves. So this is something that we all should be, cognizant of, is that we may not have an intention, we may be just joking around on cyber, but please be very careful that this particular risk is there from our peers as well. And there is this, you may think that, hey, we are showing some intimate pictures about ourselves just with the other person in the internet world, but you don't know how it can be misused. So there are some real life cases that you can find, in the news, and you have to just be aware of these kinds of situations. There is something called data brokers, right? And I would, again, it is used for, it is for mature audience, but I was looking at Trust No One. There is a documentary on Netflix, and it talks about the dark side of the data broker. So what these guys do is they have cookies, on your web browser while you are browsing. They download their cookies, they track each and every behavior that you have, and when they are mining the data all the time, even if you are not visiting that particular site, and when that data is mined, they go ahead and turn around and sell it to different companies. So these are data brokers, just like you have brokers for your cars, your car dealers, your houses. These are the data brokers. So they will just spy on you and then take the data. So this is a real, one of my friends, actually, his daughter, she goes to UCLA. And she got, and you guys will be, some of you may be going to colleges very soon, but this is something that was a real phishing email that she got. And I have, for the privacy reason, I have grayed out the name of the actual professor. So they went all the way, impersonating the actual professor, and then they sent this kind of email, saying that, hey, there is this $300 research opportunity, can you go and send your personal information, and these kinds of things happen. So this is a classic email. This kind of email that you might have heard is called phishing. So phishing email is that they will send you a spear phishing, to be very particular about it. But this particular attack is becoming more and more common right now. So we just have to be aware of sharing the data when we visit all these multiple websites. How do we go ahead and protect ourselves from the data brokers, if you will. But there could be an urge to go on the other side, right? So what we should not do, let's cover that first. So what we have talked about is what is our life today, what are the, we are all in this connected, smart era. What we have also talked about is what are the risks, especially as it relates to criminals, as it relates to our peers, and as it relates to our data brokers, right? So then what we will talk about is, hey, there could be a tendency to just get back to them, right? That is something that we should not do. So if you see, there is a 14-year-old student or kid. He was arrested for worldwide cyber attacks. He was just playing this game called Call of Duty, and many of you, might have played that game. It is on PlayStation. And, in this, what he said that I felt like I had to give something, do something to get myself back in the running, if that makes sense. So his attitude was get back at some of the attackers and try to game the system. So that was his attitude. He did not want to, do a cyber attack, but he, after going through this entire exercise, police officers were right at his doors, and his head was spinning. So try, not to go into that particular, fall into that trap. There is something called advanced persistent teenagers. Many of you might have read about lapses. So lapses is a group of 16 to 21-year-old kids, and what they have done, what lapses has done is that these kids, actually, they took over on one of the social media, Jeff Bezos' account. And look at what they did over here. So after taking over the account, they put the public key, blockchain public key, and asking for Bitcoin, saying that, hey, I want to give back to community, and send money. Lots of people sent money onto this particular public key. Obviously, all the Bitcoins were siphoned off over there. So this is called advanced persistent teenagers. They got arrested, the 2 team members out of 7, actually, they got arrested and charged on 1st of April 2022, which is very recent. I mean, it is just fresh off the press news. So we just don't want to go there. But what can we do, guys? So let's talk about what are the very practical tips that you and I, all of us can be using. So the first thing is, don't get scared. Right? The idea is not to scare you guys. The idea is to make sure that you are careful while you are using all this technology. Because I'm not going to give up my phone, right? I mean, it's part and parcel of me. I'm not going to give away my smart devices. So the idea is, don't get scared. Just be careful. So what should we do? NIST, which is the National Institute of Standards and Technologies, they have come up with a very good framework. And this framework, we as cyber practitioners, cyber guys, we typically try to use it. There are a few others like ISO, and other kind of frameworks. But NIST is a framework that is used, by the companies as well as the government. So what I will propose is that all of us, each and every one of us, go ahead and follow this particular framework. So what does that mean? So first is, we need to be very diligent and very vigilant about identifying and detecting the attacks. We need to protect ourselves. And should something happen, how do we respond and recover out of it, right? I mean, there could be identity thefts. How can we recover and respond out of it? So let's talk about it. So identify and detect, right? So there could be theft, snooping. How do I identify if my identity has been taken over, or if my webcam has been taken over? How do I find it out? So one of the things that is that you suddenly stop seeing junk mail in your mailbox. So that may be right. I mean, I get all this Safeways and novels and whatnot, right? And then I just go ahead and throw it in the recycle bin. If you find you're not getting it suddenly, that's something that we should be all worried about. You are billed for something you did not purchase. So what that means is that I have set up my bank accounts and all my, everything, credit card and all that, where I get alerts, right? So make sure, and I go through the statement myself. So make sure that you are going through your statement, whatever credit card, student card you guys might have, make sure that you are going through each and every line item. Especially look for the random amounts, right? So these random amounts, like lower dollar item that you might not remember, look for those. Because those are some of the things where you might say that a small test charges, right? You don't recognize. And you start getting personalized ads. And there is a wonderful, you will find more on this documentary thing where somebody was buying the, baby wipes for sanitizing laptops recently because of the COVID. And then, suddenly he started getting ads for diapers and all those kinds of things, right? So it's pretty creepy, if you will. One of of the things for impersonation, online impersonation, I put my photos, I put my pictures over there. If you look Google for my name, you'll find tons of information about me. What I do is I keep on searching my name online. I mean, there are pros and cons to it, but I still do it. I search for my name, and when I search for my name, I see if somebody is impersonating myself. Right? So do that for yourselves. Just check, keep an eye on it, and be vigilant. So that is how, while following the NIST cybersecurity framework, the identify and detect, so that is what we can do. So what I would like you to do is that if you have iPhones or Android, doesn't matter, go to your phone, go to your settings, please, and check the tracking, allow apps to request to track to off. Please do that. That is one of the best things that you can do on your phone, and this particular thing will save lots of data broker kind of attacks from you. And like I said, lots of platform companies like Android and Apple, they're doing great work, and some of you or your parents may be working in these companies, so this is a very important control. The second control that you should all be aware of is this cookies thing. So you may see, hey, by clicking accept all cookies, you agree, whatever, static exchange to do this. An easy path is to accept all cookies, right? Don't do that. Go through the pain. Sure, it's painful. Click on customize settings and make sure that you are accepting only the necessary cookies or potentially a functional cookies. That's all you should do. Make sure that you are putting that energy. It's super critical for you not to just go ahead and click, okay, I'm just going to accept all the cookies and go ahead. Don't do that, please. So, whenever we are in our closed room, right? I mean, we may close the door, our parents are not watching, teachers, they don't watch us, our friends don't watch us. We think that we are in this closed room, right? And where we are interacting on phone with somebody, you are not interacting with just one person or that person. There could be that somebody is snooping. So just be aware of that you are no longer in a private setting of closed room just because you cannot see other people. There could be somebody spying, So be very careful. Manage your privacy settings and all your devices and all accounts. So this is another practical tip that I would like all of you to consider very seriously. Maintain good cyber hygiene. All of us are in connected world, right? Are your devices configured securely? So one of the biggest vulnerabilities, if you will, is that people don't change the default password, right? So they get a device, oh, this is a cool gadget that I got, right? It comes with the default password. Change it, guys. Why? Because whenever we get this, the chances are it's the same password for all the devices. What cyber criminals do, they'll use the same password and they'll try to say, oh, okay, this particular device is your. They'll snoop around, this device is there, they're using the same default password, I'm just going to reuse that and boom, they got you, take over your device. Network, configure secure network. Use encryption over there, it's very easy, you're using your ISP, go ahead and configure the modems or the routers that you have. Turn on encryption. It's very easy to turn on encryption. You don't need to be a crypto or a cyber expert to be safe in this era. We talked about using the secure passwords. Do not reuse across the sites as well. So I talked about the devices. When you go from site 1 to site 2 to site 3, don't reuse passwords. So there is a credential stuffing kind of attack that happens. That particular attack, what happens is, let's say site number 1 gets hacked, right? And cyber, these criminals are very smart. Site 1 gets hacked, you're using the same username and password. The same username and password could be used on the other sites, right? And they take over your account on the site number 2. So don't reuse that. Use multi-factor authentication wherever possible. Lots of these companies, especially financials, even social media sites, they are giving option to use the multi-factor authentication. Encrypt your data, right? There is very simple controls nowadays. You can encrypt your data, keep your data, back it up, because there are ransomware. So in ransomware, what they do is they just encrypt your laptop. And when they encrypt your laptop, you will not be able to access your data, and they will ask for some bitcoins or Ethereum. So that's what they do. So make sure that you're backing it up. Install malware, keep everything up to date. And one of the important tips is using incognito or private mode over here. And limit your exposure, right? So limiting your exposure as much as possible will help you. There are lots of sites that are scam sites. They'll say, hey, quick money, $300, just click on this survey and I'll give you whatever, $10, $20. Stay away from those. So we talk about detecting and protecting now, some other tips. So be vigilant, phishing sites, deep fakes, don't trust, all these pictures that we see floating around on social media, and we think that this is true, but this might not be true. So deep fakes are right now, fake news, be aware of that. And regularly check your statements. There is an important model called Think, right? How many of you have heard it about Think? Yes, great, perfect, yeah, few hands on that. Good job. So Think is, when you are posting something on, social media, text, whatever, just have that filter, right, of Think. What that filter means is that I am about to post a message, and I say, is it helpful? Is it true? The second thing is it helpful? The third thing is it inspiring? Is it necessary? And lastly, is it kind? Right? So if you talk about if it is kind, go back to the cyberbullying that we talked about. Right? Immediately get stopped. So my request, I urge you guys to think about Think framework over here. And as soon as you hit that send button, you are not going to own it. Be it your picture, be it your post, you will not own it. On internet, it will stay forever. Okay, so we talked about that NIST cybersecurity framework, identify, detect, protect. What happens should the identity gets compromised, right? When one of the sites that you visit, it gets compromised, and then your identity can be compromised over there. What do we do, right? So there is something called respond and recover. If you suspect that you have been the victim of identity theft, talk to the vendor or company that got hacked, right? Then the second thing, you can report it to this, you may want to note it down or you may want to Google for it, identitytheft.gov, right? So this particular URL is where you can report that, hey, my identity has been stolen, contact your creditors, and talk to your parents, talk to your teachers, talk to your friends. Only as a last resort, if need be, then you may consider filing a police complaint that, hey, my identity has been taken over. So be very careful over there. But this is a last resort, guys. But what I would request you to be continuously vigilant so that we don't have to invoke, respond, and recover. So we talked about, what you can do. Listen, isn't government doing anything? Of course, they are doing lots of work over here. What government tries to do is they continuously upgrade the privacy and security posture. So very recently, there was a statement by Biden on nation security. Sometime around August 2021, President Biden, called all the cyber company leaders, the big company leaders, and said, oh, hey, how can we solve this cyber problem together? Lots of investments going in over there. So there is like $1 trillion proposed a bill, and the infrastructure out of that $2 billion is on cyber. So it's a pretty hot topic. When Joe Biden is talking about something called zero trust, CISA has a cyber fund. They are stepping up regulations. There is CCPA and all those kinds of things at the state level as well as at the Fed level. And then DHS, NSA, NIST, they have all renewed focus on cyber. Companies, what are companies doing? Cyber spending. Cyber spending is going to the roof right now in companies. So as soon as you get out of the job market, as soon as you guys try to find some internships, there is lots of attention to cyber world as we speak. And if you can see, this is from Gartner, the numbers are just going to the roof. Global cyber spending is very, very high right now. And companies are also creating a model, So when we are talking about the social media companies, when you're talking about the internet sites, the fintechs, where I'm from, the health techs, they are investing a lot. They are also following this NIST or one of those standards. And what they do is they are following best practices. They are embedding security by design, default, and deployment. They are following something called zero trust model. The way team they are looking at is that there are two types. First is, how do I safeguard the company, and how do I safeguard the ecosystem that goes around the company? So that may be the customers. And when you're doing, you might be seeing those ads actually running over there, where they're trying to protect your identity. So one of the important distinctions over here is security and safety. So the difference, so for example, when you go in the car and you put on your belt, right? It is not called a security belt. It is called safety belt, right? So there is a difference between security and safety. Security means I'm trying to protect myself is security. But if company or if the car in this kind of situation is trying to protect you, it's called safety. For example, you might have a safety belt, or while you're driving, and God forbid something happens, a crash happens. At that time, you are still safe. So that's the difference. So in this kind of situation, what companies are doing is that even if your password is compromised, even if your identity is compromised, they are taking lots of measures to safeguard your accounts. So there is a constant investment from different parts in the company. So this is a very vast topic. Again, I'm covering some of them. Opportunities, right? So what are the opportunities? You are going to get and step yourselves into this school or college, and then you may be looking for internship opportunities. There is a huge skill gap in cyber. Just look at the numbers. 2.72 million jobs right now are to be filled globally. 2.72 million. 69%, almost 70% of the organizations say that they don't have enough cyber skills. So you may consider cyber as your opportunity to grow and to grow in your career. Also look at what World Economic Forum is saying about top 10 risk team. So look over here, something called infectious diseases, the last one. It says that long-term risk outlook for next 10 years, infectious diseases is one of them. And we are living in that era, right? I mean, I have taken off my mask, but it is right over here. As soon as I'm done, I'm going to put it on, right? I mean, all of you are on masks here, which is incredible. Cyber attacks is one of them. So that is, how powerful cyberspace is right now. And we are seeing it, right, all over the map. Yahoo accounts, 3 billion accounts were compromised. And that is, we have seen Sony, Capital One, Target, Heartland, LinkedIn, the list goes on and on and on about cyber, and you're seeing it every day. This is a 2019 slide, right? And then you can find 2022, 21, there were tons of attacks and lots of companies getting compromised. Okay, to give you a perspective, team, there are 7 billion people in the world, right? Just imagine that about 3 billion Yahoo accounts were compromised, right? So what that means is that, and if you forget about the kids and forget about the elderly, that still means that almost half of the world's population is compromised right now. Almost half. Let it sink in. So the problem is huge, as you can imagine, and that's why we need all the smartness that I was talking about, and you guys are doing an amazing job over here, all the smartness to protect the world. So please consider this as your career. Cyber attacks, they are coming, where is it coming from? One country, 2 countries? No, all over the map. Doesn't matter, right? So it is coming from everywhere on the planet. Also, if you decide to start a company in security, and what are the investment trends right now? So I help a couple of VCs and private equity myself, and this is the trend, guys. I mean, it's just mind-boggling. Lots of people are coming up with their ideas, and some of you may consider this. H1 2020, for example, I want to bring your attention over here. H1 2020, the mergers and acquisitions were 9.8 billion, and H1 2021, 39.5 billion. So almost 4 times investments in cyber. Almost 4 times. And global crime rate is $6 trillion. And you saw the number that was given by US government was $1 trillion for infrastructure, but the crime rate is $6 trillion. 6 times. 6 times. So that's how severe and acute the problem is. So all you smart kids, consider cyber. Start a company, right? I mean, next time when we come over here, is there any ideas in the science project that you can think about in cyber, right? It will be very, very cool and happy to have. There are like, and this is a busy slide. I don't want to go through all the different things, but it's all over the industry, all over the spectrum that you have ample of opportunities. It's in enterprises, it's in mobile, home security, IoT, you name it, right? Well, and nowadays, even in blockchain and all that. So, just consider this as a very, very lucrative initiative, cyberspace. Now, when we look at that, there is a trend, and you guys are at a phenomenal point in your career, right? Watch out for Web 3.0. You may see this already happening right around you. So what is Web 2.0? So Web 2.0 is all these companies is at the center, and then we are all around these companies, right? I mean, and whatever you see on the left side of the slide. The transition, guys, is happening to more like open, more like trustless, more like permissionless. And we will see metaverse, we will see, or we are seeing DeFi, right? DeFi is a decentralized finance, crypto. I started my career as a crypto guy, actually, so that's what I got very interested in this. The blockchains, the AI and ML, I saw some very great projects over here talking about AI and ML and how you guys can use it. That is where the world is going, or the world has gone, and we will see more of that trend. So the entire premise on which the Bitcoin was invented, we all know the 2008 crisis. The entire premise that the Bitcoin was invented was actually trustless, was actually the open, the permissionless, and anonymizing, right? So the data brokers that we talked about earlier, so those trends are coming in right now. You will be at the center. Try to come up with something cyber and marry these two things. So with that, few takeaways, right? summary. First, think before you click and post. You don't own that data once you post it, right? The second thing, follow this identify, protect, detect, respond, and recover model that we talked about. That is very important because it gives us a holistic view of our cyber safety. The third thing is consider a career in cybersecurity, right? I mean, it is pretty lucrative, and I think it's just going to go up, like World Economic Forum talks about. So consider that career. I'll be very happy, to help any of you guys who are interested in that. The fourth thing is don't be scared. The idea is not to scare you, right? The idea is to make you aware. Just be aware of this and be careful. That's all. Then be vigilant, be cyber smart. You guys are already smart, very smart, fantastic projects, very inspiring. I'm very humbled to be speaking over here in front of amazing smartness that I see around. Just be cyber smart as well. And above all, guys, enjoy technology safely, right? It's a beautiful world out there. Just enjoy. With that, thank you so much. It's a pleasure.
Thank you so much, Mr. Mardikar. I know that this presentation was probably helpful for a lot of us, both students and parents, and to better protect us and our identity. So we don't have much time, but I think we have enough time to ask one question. You were talking about this a bit at the end of your presentation, but what would be some new or unique cybersecurity challenges as metaverse gains popularity?
As what, sorry?
As metaverse gains popularity.
Yeah. Okay, so many of you know Meta, right? I mean, Meta is basically you are using yourself into multiple worlds, right? That is metaverse, right? I mean, that is what it is. What happens is that when companies are trying to think about solving these security problems, they solve a security problem in one verse, then another verses, right? So these cross-verse cyber security problems are going to be daunting us. So you are in verse 1, when you go to verse 2, the security controls may be different, right? So if there is a compromise in verse 2, your verse 1 may get compromised. So having this multiple verses, Teresa and team, that is what I think one of the biggest things in the metaverse thing is, from the cyber perspective.
Okay, great. Thank you so much. Another round of applause for Mr. Mardikar.